Back to Capitol Review on July 13th, 2024, there was an assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was injured and one person in the audience was killed. Soon after the shooting, questions were asked about security measures in place and what went wrong. Now, a bipartisan congressional task force is taking a closer look at what happened that day. Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey is on that task force, and he joins us on Capitol Review. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Congressman, let's talk about what is the objective of this task force.
Well, we want to make sure that we get to the bottom of what went wrong. I think there were failures that day. That's obvious. We want to make sure we understand what went wrong, why it went wrong, and also important, make sure it doesn't happen again. And we've got to hold people accountable. The people who are responsible for those failures have to be held accountable for the failures that took place that day. And, there's going to be maybe terminations or other steps that are taken, but that's a key factor in what we're going to do.
What have you found so far? I know it's still early, but what have you found so far?
Well, we're still working through that. We had the site visit, as you mentioned, that took place earlier this week. My first impression when I first got to the area there was that this is not a good place where you'd want to have a rally from a protection standpoint. There were roofs to buildings that were all around the particular site. And that, I think, made it even harder to provide the type of protection that you'd want to provide to the former president, the vice president who's running against him, or any of the people who need Secret Service protection. And I think that led to, or was part of one of the reasons we had the failure that took place. Another issue is communication. Apparently it's difficult for Secret Service and state and local law enforcement to all be on the same frequency when they're communicating on one of these days. So the workaround on that is to have unified command posts, but on that day they had 2 instead of 1. So we have to try and figure out what those problems were, what led to those decisions. Why did they select that site? Was somebody overruled, and if potentially they raised opposition to that site? And what was behind the communication breakdowns that took place that day? And
Congressman, is the bottom line still that the Secret Service is responsible for the overall safety and security during a campaign event of a current or former president?
Absolutely. I think Secret Service comes into an area where there are going to be rallies held. They take over, and they're the lead agency, certainly with respect to state and local entities that are in the area. And to be fair to the state and locals, they do these, once in a blue moon, maybe. Secret Service does it every day. So I think we have to count on them to take the lead, to take charge, and to make sure everything is in place, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. So when they move on to the next rally point, they can do the same thing over there. But for a lot of state and local agencies, all they do is basically they do what they're told. If Secret Service says you take care of traffic control, they do that. If you take care of the outer perimeter, they do that. But the key here, I think, too, is whoever's in charge, you got to make sure you can communicate in real time. And that was one of the apparent breakdowns that happened on July 13th.
Congressman, last question. Can people expect that this will remain a bipartisan effort? And are you optimistic that it will?
I mean, so far, so good. We've had a few Republicans who've created their own, quote unquote, parallel investigation. I don't know that we, have heard much about what they're doing on that front. But, this task force was started by a vote of 416 to 0. And so, it had unanimous support in the House. I think we're going to continue to move forward in that way. Congressman Kelly is the chair of the task force. He's a Republican. He's been very bipartisan in the way he's moved forward with that. In fact, it'd be fair to say he's been nonpartisan in the way he's moved forward with this. So I hope we can stay on that track, because I think that'll lend more confidence in the outcome. And I think hopefully knock down extreme conspiracy theories on the left and the right. So the American public knows that the Secret Service is doing its job the right way, and that anybody responsible for what happened on that day has been held accountable.
Congressman Glenn Ivey, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.